Welcome to the Wellnessly podcast with your host, Ella. And today, my friend is Jason Delfos. Jason is the head of Pushing Limits Events, or you may know him as the race director of a lot of SA triathlons. So, should we dive in? So, firstly, who are you?
I'm Jason Delfos, and I am the, we'll call it owner and director of Pushing Limits Events, and also own a little gym studio at West Beach called the Studio at West Beach.
Oh, nice. So, what's your earliest memory of being fit?
So I was playing soccer at the age of 4, and I wanted to go further when I hit about 12 to 14. And
Yeah, who were you playing for?
I grew up in Elizabeth, so I was playing for Elizabeth Downs, and then played Federation for Salisbury United, and then, Modbury was another club that I played for.
Hang on, I have to ask for my brother's behalf, is it Jets or Vista?
Jets.
Oh, we're on the Vista side. Anyway.
So Jets, because they were Federation at the time, back in the day, and that was a while ago, so played soccer at a young age, and then got to a point where Sassy was coming into the mix, and AIS were also looking, but they were telling me I was not fit enough to be a soccer player. I was good skill, but not fit enough, and didn't fit the mould. So that sort of set me back, and they sort of said, yeah, you're good enough to be at the AIS, but
in a different sport.
Not in a different sport, just the athlete that they were looking for at the time.
Right.
So that sort of knocked me back a little bit I think I was 14 at the time. And so, then decided to change some things and go a little bit further. Had a good goalkeeping coach because I was a goalkeeper. Yep. So I didn't think I had to be an athlete as a goalkeeper. You just stand in the goals. Yeah. So then my coach sort of sat me down and said, in the next couple of years, I've got this coming up, where he was taking a group over to Greece. So I went to Greece for a little bit after I changed my life, changed some eating habits, went for runs, did all of that sort of jazz, and dropped some weight, became a bit fitter, a bit more explosive in the goals, and then all of a sudden went to Greece and got asked to stick around in Greece. So that was a bit of a bit of awakening.
How old were you then when you were
16?
And you were playing for...
I wasn't playing as such. Like I'll call it a training partner that got looked after, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it wasn't a full contract. It was more a training partner situation.
How long were you over there for?
2 years.
Oh, wow. So did you finish school while you were there, or you just...
Yeah, I finished while I was over there and here and a little bit, and so you know what it's like back in the days.
Yeah.
It was a little bit harder. Nothing was online, but things like, because I was still young, I'd had to finish school. Yeah,
of course. And then so from there you came back to Australia?
Came back to Australia and then did TAFE.
Okay.
Went to TAFE because obviously I didn't go straight to uni. Did TAFE because I still wanted to pursue soccer, so I thought that'd be a nice little backburn into that. So I went into soccer full on. Went to Adelaide United, tried to go into their youth system, but their youth system wasn't as big. That wasn't anything good, and they had some really good goalies at the time. So they had Beltrami and Birighitti at the time, so I was never breaking into that.
Do you find it, definitely harder because most teams only have like those 3 goalkeepers, but only one plays at a time.
Yeah, and even back in, even I look at it, and even back then, it was only 2 A-League clubs because they didn't have their youth system in place. They just only started that a couple of years after I was training with them and everything like that. And then Gold Coast United were in the A-League as well, and one of my goalkeeping coaches had an affiliation with Gold Coast United. They couldn't offer me anything, but they're like, come up and train with us. But being over 18 and needing money, can't really make that work.
Bit complicated, hey? So is that when you stopped and...
No, so I just played locally. So then I was played locally for Croatia Raiders. I played for Blue Eagles. And then I went to Port Adelaide Pirates. Yep. I sound like a club hopper, but I wasn't. It was just more around opportunities. I'm all about chasing opportunities. So I just took each opportunity as I could. And then it wasn't to do with the club at Port Adelaide Pirates. I just, one day, because I took up uni late in life, I went away for uni on an interstate trip that you had to do. And then all of a sudden I got back from that and then went back into training, and I just didn't want to train.
Fair enough. What did you study at uni?
Did exercise sports science. And so long story short, that was a 10-year degree that literally was only completed last year. So
did you do a bit of like a steamer kind of job at that?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a break in the middle.
Yep.
Like, I want to say 4 years break in the middle.
Yeah.
Because life got in the way.
No, that's fair enough. I think when you get to like your mid-20s and doing uni, I have a lot of friends in that kind of boat at the moment. Like we had Emily on episode 1, season 2, and she said the same. She was like finishing uni at the same age, and she just didn't find what she loved and kept studying.
Yeah.
But,
I didn't love studying, but like, because I've been around exercise and stuff like that. It made sense. And I finished it, and then I'm still waiting for ESSA to clarify whether I'm a full exercise physiologist.
Okay.
Because ESSA is obviously the governing body of that side of it, or I'm an exercise scientist. So, or a sports scientist, I can't remember. But they're just going through their criteria to tell me what my degree means officially.
Is it because it took so long to do in the way that you studied it?
Yes, because it got delayed, and because some of the course structures changed and everything like that. So they have to look into.
What do you plan to do with that after?
To be honest, I don't know. With the degree, I've obviously got that now, which is always good to have on the CV and experience. But with the gym that we've got, we are in the process of talking expansion. So we're looking at expanding our gym currently.
Yeah, let's talk about the gym. So when did that start?
Me and my wife have been in fitness for yonks. And she, when we had our second, we were at the SA Aquatic and Leisure Centre.
Yes.
So she was managing the whole health and wellness area, and I was managing the gym aspect.
Yep.
So she decided to obviously go on maternity leave. She took a full year. And then in that time, she was communicating back to work, and they weren't offering part-time work to go back to her role. So basically then chose to do stuff at home. And so she started working out of people's houses and garages and stuff like that, and at parks. And then we got to a point where she was big and she had a good following, and we're like, well, let's just set up the garage. So we set up the garage, and
there's nothing better than a good garage gym though.
Exactly. So our garage turned from our storage shed into our gym. We ran 12 classes out of our garage a week, and we had 20 to 30 people sometimes at classes in our garage.
Yeah, right.
Our neighbours, after 2.5 years, 3 years, got not sick of it. They just weren't happy, and we were actually at a point where we were ready to commit to something bigger.
What kind of equipment did you have in the garage setup?
Very basic. Like these days, you don't need a lot of stuff for small group training. So it was like your simple kettlebells, dumbbells, some ropes, one treadmill, half rack, barbells, that type of stuff. So it was very simple.
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
And then, so after we decided we're ready for that next step, we found a nice premises at the West Beach Parks, Caravan Park on Military Road. And so right next to the cafe there was 80 square metres inside.
Yep.
But they were going to include a little bit of outdoor space that's connected. So we took that on, and we did that 6 months before COVID hit.
Oh, God.
Yep. So before COVID even became a thing, we were in and we started. So that was April 1st, we took over that of 2019.
Yeah.
And so then, so then we went into COVID, and because we had such a great community, and that's what Kel has done well, is that community vibe.
Yeah, I think that's very important when you come to those smaller group sessions. Like, similar with my setup as well. Yeah,
so the community is all about it, and like we had members paying us for not even having classes on. We did online classes, we did free stuff. We didn't want to charge for online because we didn't think it was a service or anything like that. That's premium. So we were just doing freebies, but our members were like, no, we're not turning off our memberships and our payments. So
how good.
Like you look back in the day and you go, wow, that kept us alive.
Yeah.
And the community really loves us and really appreciates what we do for them. So so during that time of COVID, and then we came back into it.
Did you go into the outside stuff when you could before you went back into it?
Yeah, so we stuck to all the boundaries in the guidelines. So if we could do outside, we did outside.
Yeah.
And being at the West Beach Parks, we've got that big oval across the road. So it was a perfect precinct for us to be able to do outside fitness. But again, like, as you know, COVID it depends on how your clients felt as well. So like we could offer classes, but we could only get maybe 4 or 5 to it because other people weren't comfortable coming again. And that's totally fine, because tough times. We had no idea what to expect. It's all
Yeah.
new for everyone, and everyone was learning. But again, if it wasn't for our community, our gym probably would have gone backwards.
Oh, of course, yeah. So, in the expansion now, what are the plans?
So we're talking, it's still in the same precinct, so still will be at the West Beach Parks. We're talking with another tenant there to sublease their office space and turning that into a bit of a high performance gym with our studio involved.
Yep.
They want a gym for their high performance programs,
nice.
and they won't sort of conflict with the times that we run,
Yep.
which is great. So it's probably going to triple our size. And then we'll look to go in a bit of recovery space as well, like everyone's doing these days.
But I think that is such an important thing, going to the recovery space, because once you get into that kind of thing, people will always want that.
Exactly.
It's not going to be a fad.
No, exactly. And then we look at it as well and we go, it's more about building that community vibe as well. So if people are hanging around longer, the community vibe's going to be huge.
Yeah.
So, and that's all that we focus on is community and making sure our members know that we appreciate them and that they feel not just another number realistically. And we're not alone in that instances. Everyone does it. But for the people that choose to come to us, we want to make sure that they feel very welcome and, like I said, just not another number.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you go into the more of the performance stuff, will you take on the teams or will you go with the exercise people and they'll...
No, so with the performance stuff, we're still working out what that looks like. I would say that the sport has their own staff involved, but...
Would you like to be involved with that yourself?
If they want me to, yes. If that makes sense. Like, it's not a sport that I'm fully over.
Yeah,
it's a unique sport. I call it a unique sport in Australia. But yeah, so we've got other sporting clubs in our area
I was going to say,
that
you've
were
got a few
involved.
that are pretty close, especially with the big soccer set up across the road as well.
Yeah, we've got soccer in the area. We've got lacrosse. All of netball's now there as well. SMAA, All Angels are there.
Yep.
But we're highly involved in a netball club that our daughters play at.
Yep.
So that'd be another avenue. So sport science and sport exercise will probably be an avenue that we will expand in as well and offer. We have a junior strength and conditioning program that we offer in the school terms.
Yep.
And we get 30 kids in those programs.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah,
How exciting.
Yeah.
From there, where did you become a triathlete?
Yeah, so like I said, soccer days, we had good friends, and one of our oldest daughter's school friends, he was fully into Ironmans, like talked about it, lived, breathed it, and was like, you should do an Ironman like everyone else does that does triathlons. And I was like, yeah, I'm still playing soccer. And then we started at SA Aquatic and Leisure Centre. And then there were some other people that got in my ear and everything like that. And then went away for that uni trip and then went to training when I got back. And I just said I didn't want to play soccer anymore and quit literally that night and said, look, because at a high level in the local league, you still get paid. And I wasn't a player that just played for money. I played because I loved it and everything. So... And there was a young keeper in the grass that could have taken over, and I was comfortable to just walk away at the time.
Do you wish that you could look back and not have gone a keeper though at any stage, and wish that you were on the field?
Yes and no. I probably didn't develop the attributes to be an on-field player and do as well until I got the knockbacks being the goalie.
Yep.
So I think that would have been too late to make that switch over.
Right. Yeah.
It's just different aspects that you got to take on and everything. So I would have loved to score goals and stuff like that, but never could.
Yeah.
I do remember scoring a goal from goalie. So,
I was going to say, have you ever done that?
So I've done that before. And every now and again they'd let me take the penalty if we got a penalty. But no, goalie was in the genes and the DNA because my dad was a goalie.
Oh, okay.
My uncle was a goalie, so
you had no choice.
no choice realistically.
And then further into your triathlons, which races have you done?
Yeah, so I've done 5 to 6 Ironmans. I've done Cairns a couple of times. I've done Port Mac. I've done Melbourne. I haven't done Busso. Busso's still not ticked off.
Would you do it this year with all the rest of the people who are training for it?
No, I'm not doing it this year. There's a stepping stone that needs to be hit before I get back into Ironman.
There's a few of us planning to do the half, so there's always that option.
Well, the half is on the cards this year. I haven't done a triathlon for a couple of years. I did Noosa 2 years ago.
Yep.
And then after Noosa, a month later, I was dealing with some back issues with Noosa, And then after that, I actually sucked it up and had an MRI scan and had a bulging disc in my L5S1.
Yep.
So that was the cause of a lot of issues. And
Yep.
so now I'm only just getting back into full training of Super.
How did you go coming back from an injury like that?
Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. I can't sit still. Like, I'm not a person that just likes to do nothing. Yes, we're busy in life, but I still like to train.
Yeah.
I still like that break. That's my time. That's my time. Like a lot of other people.
Yeah.
It's people's times to just go in their own thoughts and get into training and just be with themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
So now the back's slow. Like, I still feel it, but it's manageable.
So could you still swim and stuff?
Yeah. Yes, I could still swim. It was more bike riding that would affect me.
In that position, yeah.
So bike riding is only just getting better in terms of being able to get off the bike without going, like an old grandpa getting off the bike. And then running, I've always been allowed to run, but just more it was on grass to start with. But now the running Ks are starting to pick up. And my bike Ks are starting to pick up. So the plan at the moment is Cairns half.
Okay.
Haven't fully committed yet.
Have you done? You said you've done?
Yeah, I've done Cairns
as a full though.
Full and half.
Okay.
So I've done Cairns full 3 times, and I think I've done Cairns half once. So
yeah. How do you go with the heat up there though? That's a common topic that we talk about on this podcast.
It is definitely a very common topic that you hear in triathlon world. Not great. I'm going to put it out there. Like, heat is, and you never know how hot it's going to be until you're actually out there. My favourite Cairns, though, was my first ever Ironman, and it was actually based in the city of Cairns. So you actually swum out of the port, and then you rode from Cairns all the way up to Port Douglas, and then you parked your bike at Smithfield.
Okay.
And then you ran 21 Ks from Smithfield to Cairns, which half your run was done, which I just like that point-to-point run. Yeah. And then you only had 2 laps in the city circuit. So that was my always favourite Cairns, and that was stinking hot. Mm-hmm. And I remember running past people on the side of the highway, like the Captain Cook Highway, of people laying on the floor because of the heat. So I totally get their changes and their management and safety now being a race director and everything like that. Totally get all of that and the complexity of having...
heat train for that, like a bit of a swim in a wetsuit in a hot pool?
No, not really. I won't do like that to that degree, because realistically this race is just getting back into the swing of things.
Will you have the saunas installed by then that you'll be able to get in there and practice?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we can have some saunas and we can put the treadmill in the sauna or something like that. Yeah. Because that's where you normally feel it, is on that run course, because it's so late in the day.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, nice. And so from there, how far do you think you want to go with triathlon now that you're back and healthy? Do you reckon when you do any overseas races, or?
It comes down to how this one pulls up.
Okay, right.
So if I get the bug like everyone gets when
the
they've
adrenaline
done...
rush when you finish.
If I finish and I go, that wasn't, like, I'm not in too much agony, or if I'm like, you know what I mean, you get that medal and you're just like, let's go further. I'll probably go into another Ironman build, but I won't go anything crazy in terms of, I'll give myself plenty of time to build into it. I've got to really put other things first now, like rather than Ironman and training, because at the time when I was fully involved into training in Ironman, I was in a more stable job where I was an employee, so it was easier to take time off. When it's your own businesses and your own blood, sweat and tears, it's a little bit harder to take ongoing time off and put in that full training load. So
but do you find it easier now working for yourself and being able to train? Yeah,
big time. At the moment now, with the kids at good ages and like they can look after themselves at times, and we've got a great 16-year-old that is like a second mum to our youngest, so that is a godsend to us. But no, and the littlest one at the moment is loving running, so she comes out running.
Oh yeah.
Like these holidays, I think she's ran nearly every second day because she just wants to do it. So she is going to go places. That kid, she's ridiculous.
And in terms of your training, do you like training with people or do you like training alone?
At the moment, it's a lot of alone training. Like, because it's because of the flexibility in my times of work and stuff. Obviously, the event stuff, people think it's just on the day, but there is obviously some ongoing stuff you've got to do during the week and everything. But the gym space, as you know, it's not like you 9 to 5 hours. No. It's 6 a.m. It's 9:15. It's
all
6
over the place.
All over the place. So whenever I can get an hour or two, it's going out. But we've got good group of friends that are like us, that own their own businesses and are flexible. So I could go for a
cool.
ride with a couple of people during the day, and we call it pro hours. So don't have to do the 6 a.m.s or the 4 a.m. wake ups anymore.
Well,
which
is like less traffic and people around when you're riding and training then.
Exactly.
You've always got the best time to go.
Exactly. We've got a couple of people that I can go into and train with and do some things.
Yeah, nice. Did you ever get into triathlon coaching other than the courses that you ran out of Next Gen?
I did try, I did have a couple of athletes that I managed and looked after their programs, but I hate to say it, triathletes are picky and complicated and they're hard work. Coaching triathletes are hard work, and you've really got to put the time, and not to say it's not a great career, it's just you got to really have that full time to be able to put the effort into each athlete. And again, like when I was at soccer, I didn't play to get paid. I played because I loved it, and I don't want to do the same with coaching or that type of thing. And I didn't feel like I was offering people good service, so I sort of didn't really pursue it too much. So triathlon coaching is still a good passion in terms of not a hobby, but a project that can go down the track in the end. But at this stage, we're not really doing any triathlon coaching. I've got a couple of runners that I look after. And,
I think because it's such a difficult sport, being the three sports combined, you've really got to find a coach that aligns with you, hence why they're so picky.
Exactly. And not only that, it's also like triathlon coaching you could go full-time into, and you could fully delve into full-time coaching and make a successful career out of it. And it's proven, there's that many good coaches in South Australia that are full-time coaches. And there's evidence there that you can make it a full-time career if you wanted to. But at the times when I became a coach, because when I was employed by Triathlon South Australia, I was quite lucky. They put me through the development coaching course straight away, and that sort of threw me in the ring. And then after a year of being involved in the junior development program and other things and coaching courses, the performance level coaching course came up. So then they invited me to that. So I did the 7 days in the AIS. Basically, that was probably one of the best coaching courses I've done, even all the strength and conditioning ones I've done, all the weightlifting ones I've done, all of those coaching courses. This one for the 7 days, because we went in and we were thinking we were just going to be coaching athletes, but no, they sort of said, you're the athlete as well. So
I like that way of learning. It's so much easier.
Yeah, so we got delved in, and we had one of the best coaches in Australia come and help deliver the program. We had Joel Ferrilio come across from the US and talk about training peaks a little bit more.
Oh, cool.
We had some higher level athletes come into the coaching course as well. And it also is a good networking, as you know. Networking is crucial. So met some great people and still talk to them. But it was just a great time.
So good. So talking about coming out of Triathlon SA when you were running events then, and then starting your own company called Pushing Limits Events and taking over some of the big events in SA. How did that start?
Well, obviously I was employed by Triathlon South Australia, and it was still during that COVID time where some South Australia government money was changing to how they funded sports.
Right.
And I was working with TriSA, and we sort of came up with the best solution possible for me to help them out with their events. So then went into a bit of contract work for them as their event director for the Westlake Series. And during that time, when I knew that my employment was going to be I won't call it terminated, just changed to a contract role for the events. Sid emailed Triathlon South Australia saying, I'm done. I don't want to run Victor Harbour anymore. And so speaking with Jesse, I just said, do you mind if I approach him? And he goes, go for it. So I went back to Sid straight away and said, I want it. Yeah. What do you want?
That's one of the biggest races in SA now, right?
Yeah. So I went to Sid and I just said, I want it. It's too big a race for it to just die wondering.
Yeah.
And then one thing led to another, and then I owned the Victor Harbour Triathlon. And so that year I was a contractor for the Westlake Series and the Duathlon Series and Victor. Put them all on, and then I was the same the following year again. And then the start of this season, so July last year, a few things changed. Triathlon South Australia went to tender out their events.
Okay. Instead of them running them themselves.
Instead of them running them fully, so
isn't this how it used to be when Gaddy used to run triathlon?
Well, Gaddy sort of owned it, right. And so Gaddy owned their races, and then they got to a point again, 21 years in the sport, delivering events.
A lot of effort, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and Triathlon SA, where I was part of these conversations because I was employed at the time. Jesse sort of managed the process and did a great job in transitioning the ownership from Gaddy to Triathlon.
Yep.
And back in those days when there was the 2 full-time employees with me and Jesse there, we thought we did a great job in setting up the West Lakes events. And over time, numbers started to increase and everything like that, which was great. And it sort of gave me some good learning curves to take into the job that I've got now of my own events. And so, so obviously with the tender process, they were looking to release the events. And in that time frame when I applied for all the tender, like wrote my tender document, had submitted it, I found out Silver Sands were up for grab.
Oh, how cute.
So I went to Julie and Chloe, who have done a great job recreating the Silver Sands Triathlon and have sold out the last 2 years that they owned it and everything like that. So I was lucky enough to take over the ownership of that as well. So this will be the first year that I'll be running Silver Sands under my banner. So looking forward to that one. And then also the aquathon, Scott McLean, who brought the aquathon back to Glenelg. He took a full-time job in fly-in, fly-out work. And so he just lost the time and effort to be able to put into it. And obviously you need time and effort to be able to put into races. So he was loving and just gave me the event, which was great. So that already became mine.
Yeah.
And then Moana was always going to be part of my series. And Dan Harbottle, who has owned it for I don't know how many years now and done a great job, he was going to manage it this year and I was going to just support him and it just be part of my series. But about a month and a half leading up to the race, he goes, I can't give it the time and effort it needs and it's yours. So
now you've taken over the States events.
Took over the States events.
Is there any others that you don't have yet, or is that all of them?
No, I don't. Like, so obviously the West Lakes ones are the only ones that I don't own and help run anymore. But again, like those types of events are crucial for the sport because it's an entry into the sport.
Yeah,
and
I feel like that's always where you start
exactly.
off and then go on to
and you
ones.
need that entry level event where
course,
people aren't timid, scared, and there's always that safety net of the ocean. Like it's not an ocean swim, so that whole I'm not swimming with sharks. So totally get that. But no. So there, I've got 7 events on my calendar because I've also involved in. It went in November this year, the Team Up Try, and that was for the Concussion Legacy Foundation.
I did that one. Yep. Yes. So Millie, I'm not sure the other guy's name, and they were like, Millie literally posted on Facebook, I want to do this race on the weekend. It was like Wednesday. Anybody want to do a leg and I'll just do what nobody wants to do? I was like, I'm only training in the swim at the moment, so I'll just do that.
But no, so they...
That was actually such a good event.
It was huge. Like I didn't think it was going to get that big. Like that was scary because I was involved and contracted to put on the event.
Right.
So I wasn't involved in the entries, the registration. So I had no clue leading up to how many we were up to. I was getting little updates in terms of we're at this number of teams, this number of teams, this number of teams.
Yeah.
And then a week out, I was like, all right, what's the final number? And he told me, I'm like, what? So
what was the total number in that one? It was like when I turned up, I was like, "Well, there's a lot of people here."
172 teams.
Wow, that's a lot.
So 172 teams. So you do that times 3
people.
Yeah.
There's a few people who did a few different events in there as well. You know, I found it really interesting that you had a few pro teams in there too, which was nice to run alongside.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We didn't actually I don't think they actually approached anything like that. Yeah. It just got into the public and. It was an organic growth. Like I look at it and I go... Was there
a radio station involved with
this
too?
Triple M.
Yep.
Triple M got on board very heavily because of the Concussion Legacy Foundation.
I did like that, yeah.
And the footy, obviously, concussion being a very high topic in footy.
Yeah.
Jars obviously being footy.
Yeah. Did he race in the end?
No, he didn't race. Triple M put a team together and I think he pulled out.
Oh, yeah, we were looking for them.
He was there. Jars was there, but he didn't race.
Yeah.
But it's a great event and I'm talking with the foundation at the moment around what the longevity of it is.
Would you like to run that yearly again?
Yeah, so it will be on. It will be on. It's just more on what my full role is in terms of there was a couple of other people that were involved in the management, but the one was an ambassador of the Concussion Legacy Foundation. Yep. He's also a high up teacher at a school in South Australia and can't commit to
fair enough
all of it.
But then also good to keep somebody in like that because then the schools are involved, which we found was really interesting too.
Yeah, so there was a good amount of students involved, student teams, and then obviously huge amount of football uptake, which to be honest, a lot of people go from football to triathlon in their career. So again, I see it as an event that can be that sort of next step from moving to people across into the sport of triathlon, or people taking up triathlon in the summer.
Yeah, of course. And so behind the scenes of how to, like, say you've taken on an event, what happens to get an event happening?
Oh, wow.
Because I think so many people turn up to an event and don't appreciate what's really happened to get there. Like a brief overview of how do you get an event started?
So the biggest thing is the negotiation. So it's a lot of negotiation because obviously you look in South Australia and you go, the beaches are phenomenal. Yep. There's so many aspects you could run a race. The negotiation is all around the bike.
Okay.
Because the bike is the hardest leg to get up and running.
Yep.
Obviously closing roads, affecting residents, affecting businesses.
And getting the councils involved as well.
Yeah, councils, you have to have council involvement. So the negotiation is actually with councils, not with residents.
Yes.
So basically, say, for instance, like at the Murray Bridge, like I knew that the council wanted more events, so we went to them and they backed it straight away.
Oh,
it's
cool.
a remote, obviously, council. It's a remote little town, and they're like, yep, we're happy to close these roads, these roads, these roads. A more populated area, like in the metropolitan, it would take 6 months of planning with council to fully get it approved over the council committees and everything like that.
So is that something like your beachside suburbs as well?
Yeah. So Moana, obviously, because Stephen Stubbs back in the day when he was XL Sports, he got all of it approved. So Moana's like just I won't say copy and paste, but council know what's involved. The residents know what's involved, so it's been around. So
I'm somehow an ambassador for that race one year, and it ended up being one of my worst races I've ever done.
Moana's interesting. Moana can either be a clear day or it can be a hard day.
It was a clear day. It was the hills involved, I think, because I had been racing West Lakes so often. Yeah. To bring in a hill at the very start of the bike, I had the bike I had at the time, I was ready to toss out anyway. I feel like that's the life of being a triathlete, and you love-hate relationship with your bike.
Exactly. And always looking to upgrade.
Yeah, of course. And I think it was just a bit of combination with that, chucking the hill in, the gears were playing up, and I was like, that was a crap race. Yeah. Good, like amazing location.
No,
but
I mean, and like those ones that you can copy and paste with council approvals and stuff. Great, it takes a month to get over the line, and they don't really need to go to council for a vote or anything like that. But like, so for instance, all the changes I've done to Victor Harbour, the triathlon there, I've had to go to 5 council meetings. I've had to go to like full questioned and answered and reports. Community feedback, so full consultation letters out to residents asking for their feedback, then collating all their feedback and then reporting that to council. So there's a lot of work in terms of the council relationships you've got to manage and making sure that you're obviously having all the right processes in place. So like I'd love to be able to run the traffic management myself, but you need to be, it's not easy, and you need obviously qualifications. So I thought, why not best sign up and create a good relationship with one company and sort of create that sort of sponsorship. So Fastlane Traffic are one of the major sponsors for the events, and they've sorted me out and helped me out hugely this year, especially being the first year of my series. Yeah. And they've been great. Jay and Stefan used to be at Altus originally, and then they went to another company, and now they've gone off on their own, and Fastlane Traffic are just growing.
I love when you on the bike and you go past the traffic people and they're cheering you on. There's actually nothing better.
Yeah, they're actually quite good in that space, and they understand it now, which is good. Like they understand the management side of it. So sometimes I even say to them, like I'm trying to work out what the long-term future of events are and where some new ones can go. And I'm like, I want to go here. Can you design me a bike course that will get approved?
Yes.
And so I'll go to them and they'll design the bike course and vice versa. So the new Victor Harbour course was basically designed by them and also some locals. Yep. Because
I've heard there was a big hill in that one
There is a big hill. There is a big hill, so get ready for that. There's a pinch. And it's pretty close to town. So, but no, Victor Harbour is going to be a good course this year. I believe that once, obviously, the October event, I shortened the loop of the bike course, but if you go out a bit further, it's less hit on the legs with the hills. It's more on the way back. You'll have a nice good roll down the hill. But no, running an event, it's not everything. Like it's not just rock up on the day. Obviously, you've got social media.
So from getting the account to approval, then you send the events out. How long before do you send an event out? So do you send it out from as soon as it's approved, or do you send it out in a calendar?
Well, so then after you've got, because now I'm a private race director, I then go to Triathlon South Australia and say, here's the dates that I want to run events.
Yep.
And then obviously they've got to make sure that it doesn't conflict with, at the moment it's only West Lakes because there's no one else running events in South Australia.
Because you own them all.
Yeah, but we've got a good relationship with Laura at Triathlon South Australia, and she's great. So we work quite well together, and we communicate quite regularly in terms of already pre-planning what next season looks like, and vice versa. So it's more around making sure nothing conflicts, because obviously,
of course, you want people there.
Exactly, you don't want to be competing with market to market, but then you've also then got to take into effect interstate races.
Yeah, of course, especially the bigger ones too.
Yeah, so one that will play up a big factor is I didn't actually realise Geelong changed date.
I heard about this. Geelong is now on one of your race dates.
Yeah, my postponed Murray Bridge date.
And people were like, "Oh, which one do I do?" They're actually juggling. Do I go to Geelong or do I come and do your race?
I know, it's hard.
That's actually a good thing to happen though.
It is good that people are weighing up my race to an Ironman race. Not that it's on the
same weekend, but I mean, they're weighing up two big events.
Yeah. And so that's the hardest part. Is obviously Ironman is that eye-catching sort of adrenaline rush feel that you get from it.
Yeah.
But again, in hindsight, Murray Bridge would have already been done by now in December. Yeah. We shouldn't have had all that rain. That was ridiculous. And we're still having rain.
Stuff like that.
Aquathon, we had rain and thunderstorms. It was just, hopefully the Silver Sands and Victor.
How do you go, like you say, competing against those PTO races and the Ironman kind of things?
Yeah.
Is there any, chance that one of your races could turn into a PTO, or?
So there is scope for that side of it, and I know that PTO have just signed an agreement with World Triathlon to run some races, and I've got a really great relationship with Elite Energy events in New South Wales with Emo. Cool. So me and him talk very, very closely, and we talk often, and he obviously being I class him as the best race director in Australia in terms of, you've got Ironman obviously, which is a global company.
Yep.
But then you've got Emo, who's, I would say, the premium product in Australia from race events. He's been around the sport for God knows how long. So I go to him for help and everything like that. I say, Emo, how do you do this? And he sends me an email straight back, and he sends me his templates. He sends me all of his
cool.
So he is really good at sharing knowledge and all of that, and he keeps me in the loop of what he hears. And there is some opportunities coming up in the next couple of years.
Okay, cool.
So watch this space.
You're hearing it here first, guys.
Watch this space. So there is always in the back of my mind how to, you could get a challenge race in South Australia, but challenge asks for a lot of dollars.
Right. The sponsorship behind that you need
first?
No,
not just sponsorship. Franchise, license fees and license dollars. Ironman used to license out their brand, no longer do.
Right.
So Ironman want to own their brand.
Do you ever see an Ironman event happening in South Australia, or do you don't think there's a course that would be long enough?
I know they've looked at it. I know they have looked at it at half in South Australia.
Where would you think that would go?
I think that they'd take over one of the current ones.
In your, as an athlete, where would you prefer a half Ironman in SA to be? Where would be, the prime?
Somewhere around the beach, like Onkaparinga, I'd say. Oh, yeah. Anywhere along the Onkaparinga beaches would be a nice spot, because I just think the visuals that Ironman wants to appeal to is just beautiful. And then they've got the wine regions around that way as well. So I would look at the Onkaparinga way, because obviously it's easier to skip out into some of those little lower effort roads, and there's less detouring from main traffic. You can push them to the expressway and vice versa. So from a management point of view, I would say if anything's going to happen, it'll be along that coast. Metropolitan would be too hard. So around the West Lake Centre for Glenelg. Glenelg would be awesome to have an Ironman out of, but it's just too populated, too highly.
Yeah. What if you went further down Brighton and then went towards up the south coast?
Yeah, you could. It comes down to obviously infrastructure.
And the bike riding as well, because it is a lot longer distance.
Exactly. So 180 Ks is not, you need a 90K loop, realistically. You can't, Ironman these days, you couldn't do 4 laps of 45 Ks.
Fair enough. It's too hard to count where everybody's at.
You'd lose people's minds, I think, personally. But then there's also, I want I want to delve into higher opportunities and higher events in terms of like multi-day events and stuff like that. So that's on the cards as well that I'm looking into.
Is that and distance as well?
Yep.
So what's the furthest race we have in SA at the moment? Have we got an Olympic?
So we got 2 Olympics. One will be at Victor Harbour, one's at Murray Bridge.
Yep.
And then at Victor Harbour, we've got the 100K.
Okay.
So 100K being 2K swim, 80 ride, and 18 run.
Okay, that's almost a different... Is that close to a PTO distance now too?
Yeah, so that is the PTO distance. Yep. The reason I chose to do that at Victor rather than going to a half iron distance is because, not timing or such, because I see a lot of potential with that 100K distance in terms of people can do that more often than strive to do half Ironman after half Ironman after half Ironman. Yeah. So that was my choice behind it and some other opportunities that I'm trying to explore.
Planning something like that 100K event, how many hours do you have to allow the event to go on to allow everybody to get through?
Yeah, so I set it like a 7.5, same as a half iron distance, 7.5 hours roughly. I'll have a couple of checkpoints that I'll just manage and see where they're at in the stage of their life in the race, and knowing most of the athletes in South Australia, I can sort of gauge where they'll be and if they get off the bike at X, will they be finished by Y? It's more the bike. As long as we can reopen roads at a certain time, it causes a lot less conflict with residents and councils. So it's more not just because of the run, it's more just reopening main roads. So if people can be off by X number of hours on the bike, which I think is quite reasonable in the time allowance, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, fair enough. And I have to ask about the medal situation you have setting up at the moment.
Yes.
The way that they're connecting together, who came up with that idea? It's brilliant.
I just said to my manufacturing company, I want a medal that connects, and they sent me a couple of options. First, I had one that went overlapping. Okay. So one that sat on the bottom and then one on top, on top, on top.
Isn't there a trail race that does it like that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of races but 6 races, it looked like, what was that? So I'm thinking I couldn't get the image off the image that they send you, and then the different pieces, you can see it and you go, yeah, that makes sense. But then when you put it together on an image, you're like, that doesn't make sense as an image. So then we went jigsaw, and then I was like, all right, I don't want just a square puzzle. Let's be something different. So and then this one connects. And again, like I didn't say I want a circle. They just created some designs and I chose the best one that I thought.
So smart though.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, if you skip a race and you did it the year after, will it still fit?
Yep.
So you're not going to change the circle in the next couple of years?
No. From a ordering point of view, it's been working well, and the size and the metal is quite nice, I think, in terms of where I want to go and opportunities to reward people for completing series and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, absolutely. How good.
Yeah.
So I saw that the other day and I was like, it's brilliant. Great idea. So moving on, name a sliding door moment in your life where you've either gone left or right and it's kind of changed the path of your future. Yeah,
so I'll put it back to that instance where I quit soccer.
Yep.
And then the next day I didn't decide I was going to do triathlon. I was obviously at the SA Aquatic and Leisure Centre working there, and I jumped in the pool and I said, all right, let's see how far I can swim. And I swam 2K without stopping, and I was like, all right, let's do triathlon.
Yeah.
So that I would say that would be my sliding door moment. And then also there was another one, I'd say I was in between jobs and vice versa, and I chose to go down this line, and that's where I met my wife.
Cool.
So there was multiple job options back in the day, and I chose to go down this door and met my wife through work. So
good.
So I've got 2 sliding door moments.
And they both turned out pretty well.
Yeah, well, so far the events were still going, so we're still young in this event space, so we'll keep going.
How good. You mentioned about your children training with you. What's the importance of showing your kids a healthy lifestyle?
It's more just about giving them knowledge that they can make their own choices in their minds up. Obviously, our rule of thumb is we're not perfect. We don't boast to be the best nutrition people in the world. We don't stick on diets. We're not. Don't measure out by the grams our food.
You just have a healthy lifestyle.
Healthy lifestyle, have balance. And so that's what we try and portray to our children. Indy obviously was around the gym in the garage, and when she could start walking. She knew what a burpee was. She knew how to do push-ups. So she's grown up with it in terms of obviously having the gym and the clients and that coming into her life. And she's in and around the gym and she loves it. And so we just support our kids to choose what they want to do. And like they'll make their own choices up where they want to go in life. But we'll just try and show them some good opportunities and good options for them.
Absolutely. How good. Yeah. So what are you consuming at the moment in terms of podcasts, TV shows, books?
I'm not going to lie. I love sport. So I watch a lot of sport.
So do I. At the moment, I'm in like the English soccer league. Like that's all I watch. Yeah. Like I literally sit down and I watch YouTube about like anything that's happening in the sporting world. I hate to say
it. Like at this point in time in my life, I'm watching a lot of sport because I'm so involved in sport and everything like that. So I'm a big NBA fan.
Oh yeah, who'd you go for?
I just appreciate LeBron.
Okay.
Like I just appreciate what he does and the backbone. It's just like soccer. Like I appreciate Ronaldo and Messi and what they do. Like they're not just born great; they earn it.
Yeah,
so
they've worked hard to be there.
Well, and they still work hard to be at the top of the level. Like they're in the gym before anyone else. They're at the courts before anyone else. They're on the pitch before anyone else. They're putting in extra time.
Yeah,
and that's the lessons that I want to portray to my kids is that you got to push that extra 10% to make it as high as you can. And
if there's any teams that will you actually sit down and watch any full games, or you're a highlights kind of guy?
No, I watch the and because of the flexibility, I can have it in the background and everything like that. So I watch the basketball a lot in terms of the NBA because it's during the day. So I'll have that going on in the background. So yesterday my daughter comes downstairs and she goes, "Dad, this is not fair. You've got 3 screens." So I've got my laptop screen, the big monitor that my laptop connects into, so I can have 2 dual screens, so it's easier. And then I've got the iPad there with the basketball on. So
if that's how you work better, do
it. Exactly. So and then even when I'm on the bike, like I try and time a bike ride on Zwift with another screen there watching the sport. I don't like to watch too many movies or TV shows because I'm too busy on the ride. So sport's easier to just watch sport. And then on the run, the treadmill, I've just found out that a gym treadmill at the gym links to Zwift, so I've got that going, and then I just have a screen up on the top as well.
With your supporter.
So
what's your soccer team as well you follow?
Yeah, I'm a Man United supporter.
Oh.
So my dad was a Tottenham supporter, my uncle was an Arsenal supporter, and I chose Man United for some reason. I cannot tell you the backstory on why.
My brother's exactly the same. So my uncle was like, he's non-stop Tottenham. That's all he talks. Yeah. My grandfathers were both Birmingham City. Yeah. That's before they got relegated down. The other grandfather was Aston Villa. That's all he used to talk about. And now I've started watching the women's. I'm like, well, I've got all these teams to choose from.
Exactly. And that's just amazing how big that's getting.
Crazy. I actually ended up going for Arsenal because they've got a good team set up there. But I'll always watch the Man City highlights. The Chelsea, I was like, just watch the highlights because they're a good team. And then occasionally and West Ham just to see how they're going.
Yeah,
but it's incredible how big that's gotten.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And even like when the World Cup was here, like just seeing the kids get involved, like
so good.
Yeah, I didn't think Indy liked soccer, but
no, she loves. So. You know what I loved about the World Cup is watching the little boys watch the girls play and still following them.
Yeah,
like especially watching the Australian girls and the girls wearing the boys wearing the girls' Guernseys.
Well, a lot of sports need to take that and try and mimic it because
I think so,
because there's so many sports that are so far behind the 8 ball with professionalism and elite sports.
I think that's like AFLW is still that little bit far behind, but they have so much potential to be there.
They are making some very good inroads in terms of they're competing with some higher like female dominant sports and they're taking from those sports a lot and they're creating a career out of it and if you can create a career out of it, of course people are going to aim for it. So I just like where that's at the moment. I like seeing where they're going to go, but I think they're going to leave a lot of sports in the back burner.
Yeah, I've watched women's sports for like years and it's so nice for everybody else to finally catch up so I can sort of looking like the crazy person talking about sport all the time, that people actually know what to...
Exactly.
That they have somebody else to talk to about it now. On your social media, what are you looking at a lot at the moment?
I look at a lot of event stuff. So look at what Ironman does. I look at like all of those types of brands, PTO, Malula Bar Noosa, they're separate pages, but they're owned by Ironman. I watch Elite Energy, obviously, because good relationship there.
In the PTO and the Ironman races, who are you kind of typically watching as in the athletes?
It's hard because PTO obviously is where the prize money's at, and that's where people want to go. I just like the opportunity. It's actually showing, like, I hate to say it, like, and it's a slap in the face to triathlon, but like it's showing a long-term career, and it's not just about the Olympics for athletes. It's showing that, yes, you need the sprint stuff for the short course racing, and the Olympic model was that, and that sort of stuff, but to transition from that to the longer distance, and it doesn't have to be full Ironman. Like
even the 100K setup.
These athletes are making more money now in the sport than they were 5 years ago.
What do you think if the Olympics took on like the PTO distance?
I think that's where the sport needs to try and go to.
Yeah,
for longevity.
They have Ironman. Like the marathon already there, so why not just add in
exactly? And I look at longevity of the sport, and like you'd hope that they start to go, all right, this is what people are watching, and this is where we're going to get most people wanting to follow. But again, it's a lot of powers that be when it comes to Olympic sports, and I just see it as Olympic sports. They already
have the events there, so why not add them together?
It's just a stepping stone, and I get the number of sports that Olympics can have, and vice versa, and all of that. So,
would you rather see them do something like that rather than a breakdancing though?
Yeah. There's some. I've even heard virtual reality sports are coming involved into the Olympics. Crazy. So I think if triathlon could delve into pushing that as an Olympic sport as well.
What are your thoughts on like CrossFit events, bringing in triathlon events to within it?
Yeah, that's interesting. CrossFit is an interesting realm. Like, I look at it and I go, CrossFit has been a great impact in Australia in terms of it's gotten a lot more people engaged in fitness and thinking about things. It's made exercise go back in 360 in terms of going from like just functional exercise movements to just, it's interesting. CrossFit, I'm just going to leave it as interesting because I like that it's getting people more involved in other sports as well.
Do you find it interesting when they've got like big events, so like Waterpalooza just happened, or like the CrossFit Games, and when they bring in the swim and the run events? And
it's very interesting because you go, well, that's really not their sport, but they're trying to find the fittest people on the earth. And I go, you know what, that it's good because you're seeing some big bodies that are lifting huge weights and can be so functional, walking on their hands and do muscle ups, climb ropes, and they can still swim and run.
Do you find it interesting when you have those kind of athletes come out to your events? Like,
yeah, well, I was around, like, obviously James Newbury.
I was just going to say that,
Like, James has delved into triathlon, and he did some really good things in triathlon. He got some great results.
Because they've already got the engine going for an event like that, so...
And that's all it is. Ironman's all mind games. Like, if you can push through your mind, you can complete an Ironman, realistically.
I've said that a lot on this podcast, that it's honestly such a mental game, rather than... You can be fit, which is amazing, but if you don't have the mental side happening, you're stuffed.
Well, that's just fitness, isn't it? Like, if you don't have a mind game, like your mind switched on, you're going to make the wrong choices and you're going to let every little demon win.
Yeah, of course. So, and that black hole in the middle of the race, of course. So a couple of listener questions was, number one was, what motivates you to keep training?
What motivates me? I'm grumpy if I don't train. Okay. So I'll put it, it's more personal, I want to say, like keeping myself accountable. And that's the motivation, and also a good role model for my kids. And that, so if my wife can tell when I've trained and when I haven't trained, and she'll tell me.
Yeah.
So.
Next one was from an actual triathlon coach in SA, said, do you think Ironman events are going backwards and people are more inclined to race locally?
A couple of years ago, yes, I would have said, but this year has been very interesting in terms of participation numbers and versus Ironman, because everything's getting better. I'd say 2 years ago, because obviously if people were forced to race locally, numbers were high, but I think now that everything's back to normal, we'll call it, in terms of obviously people travelling, interstate world races are on again, people have that choice, and choice is good. But again, I do hear people saying, "No, I'm going to race locally rather than go interstate for that race." So I'll call it fun. It's a funny timeline where people are choosing to race locally, but they're also choosing to race interstate, and there's no real Where before COVID, I think people would have gone, yeah, I'm racing interstate. So
yeah. Do you think it's a money thing as well, coming out of the back of COVID, and
definitely.
like it's
And
more accessible to go local?
exactly, and also like obviously interest rates rising and cost of living and all the dramas that are happening in today's world. Like it's all those things that play up, and obviously secondary spend. People will stop doing their secondary spend, and events are a secondary spend.
Yeah, of course. The next one was, what do you see the future of triathlon in SA?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Just
that's
in your thoughts.
In
like,
my thoughts?
in
in my thoughts. Well, someone asked me, like, how long do I see myself race directing and being involved? Like, I don't see myself getting out anytime soon. Like, so...
You've been in it long enough.
Yeah,
What's a few more years?
Exactly. I've got a lot more years left in the sport in terms of involved race directing races, putting on new races.
Yep.
I would hope to get another 2 new race locations up. I'd hope to have a multi-day event up in place.
What would you like to, in terms of that, how to make that look?
First, I need a bigger space to store all my stuff. So if anyone knows anyone that has a storage shed or warehousing business, come see me. No, it's more just around not flooding it too quickly and just little baby steps, because if you flood the market too quickly, obviously it just disperses everything. So it's now that I own what I own in the event space, going, all right, let's spend a couple of years on these events, making sure that they're solid. Making tweaks. Obviously, Murray Bridge still isn't tested. It's a new race, so making sure that's fine. Silver Sands is the first time I've run it, so that's got to make do. I put 2 Victors on this year. I won't probably put 2 Victors on again. It will be most likely 2 Moanas, I'll say. Probably 2 Moanas next season. Moana's awesome. Like, I love Moana. Such a great venue, such a great atmosphere. So Moana will probably have 2 races next year. And then...
in terms of this multi-day event, what would it look like?
Yeah, so a big swim to a decent ride, and then a big ride in day 2, and then a big run on day 3.
Okay, so you split them up, like each day has an event.
Yeah.
Would you ever include something like a Kangaroo Island in?
Yeah, so I've looked at KI. I looked at...
doing a bit of like an off-road run?
Yeah, I've looked at KI Marathon. I looked at all of that sort of stuff. I've looked at adventure racing. I've looked at all these things. There's all these things in the pipeline. It's just keeping myself back to reality, going, let's not take too much on. But there's definitely opportunities around that adventure space and the multi-sport space. I mean, now that the reservoirs are open for kayaking and running and riding, so many options. Like Happy Valley, if you could swim at Happy Valley, you've got the best Olympic distance course there, because you can swim in the reservoir. The loop on the road around the Happy Valley is 10K.
Oh, perfect.
So you use the border of that, is like, so then you've got your bike ride, and then you run on the internal part. So if you could swim in a reservoir, that'd be so much easier. But
so would you bring in like a setup, also something like those races they do in New Zealand, where you have the mountain bike, the canoe?
Yeah, and that's like, because I went to New Zealand last year for a bit of a trekking coastal thing, and I was sort of doing parts of the big Kathmandu coast to coast trek in New Zealand, and I'm like, wow, that would be amazing to try and do it yourself, like what we just did in terms of continuously. So that's another challenge. So yeah, I think the challenge adventure sports are always going to be that sort of tick box for people to aim for, and yeah, it's definitely on radars to go, let's create something new.
One day. Yeah, how good. How do you find like competing against like your 2XU events that they have in Victoria, or like the events they have in Queensland? Yeah,
so the 2XU series and like the Queensland series, the hardest thing is obviously mass numbers. So like Triathlon in South Australia, I think, is 700 and something members, but we've got that many one-day members that register just to race.
Do you find there's a lot of people? Yeah, exactly. A lot of people don't even register with Triathlon SA anymore.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that are not members, and that's why I decided in my series I'm not going to just award points to Triathlon SA members, because obviously being a private entity, people are paying me money for a product, and why would I exclude half my market? So everyone's a member because they do pay a fee. So they do get the insurance coverage that a member would get. But the beauty about being a member is like you delve into the community again, and then you're accountable. And that's why I love the triathlon community, because like I'm part of the Lakers. I've got good relationships with Tempo, and I know what they're doing. I know what Flow's doing. I know what all the clubs are doing, and they've got great training environments and making people stay accountable. So
what do you think about these other groups starting up that aren't affiliated?
I love it. Yep. I just love it, because it's getting more people involved and it's keeping people accountable. And if people are willing to create something that brings people together
Yeah.
to try the sport of triathlon that's inclusive, community focused, that challenges people physically and mentally.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. So the more little squads that pop up, the more coaches that jump on.
I'm in one that's just starting up. So we were Triathlon and we've just kind of split off and started another one, and we're called the Part-Time Athletes.
Love it. Love it. No.
And so we're up and coming in the sport, as in, do you know Hudson Pitt?
Yeah.
So he's the one who's running
it
off.
nice.
So it's going to be a good group. It's growing
No,
up there.
it's just definitely, like, the more people involved, obviously, that can bring people together, like, it's perfect.
I think there's nothing better than getting in a group together and training, even if it's just for your swim leg
Exactly. And the hardest thing is in South Australia, you can be a squad and be a club, but it then delves into not-for-profits and vice versa. So again, it comes down to constitutions, and I totally understand why people choose to be a club versus a squad. So, but I just love, if people want to try triathlon, throw yourself in the ring, find yourself a squad, a club, like that environment to put you in, because it's going to set you up to succeed.
Yeah, I reckon. Would you ever go back to running? You remember those 8-week courses you used to run at Next Gen? Would they ever come back again?
Well, Lakers do Try 50 program. I know that. And I know that Tempo they did a beginner program for Moana. So all the clubs and squads...
They're doing it off separately now?
Yeah, and I think, like, it's always good for the clubs and those squads to do them, rather than, like, I was doing it for the association.
Yeah.
And there was no end game in terms of, we can show you where the clubs are, but if the club or squad is running it, then they're already involving them in their current programs to get them involved in that community. And I think that's where the long-term game is. So that would be my suggestion too.
How many of those did you run? They were like brilliant when you had them.
6, I think.
Yeah, I think there's still people in the group that I was in that I still see out there racing, and I'm like, still friends of.
Yep, exactly. And I would say that probably 80% of people that did that program found a squad, found a club. So it's just got to have the people that are willing to have the time and put the effort into some new people into the sport, because there's a saying that triathletes are either 5 years or life.
Yeah, right.
So you're either in the sport for 5 years or you're in there for life.
Well, I think I've just passed my 5 years, so I'm in. No, actually, I reckon I've been racing for 7 years now. I think I was like straight out of school, and the year after is when I came in with you guys. So I must be in for life.
And that's the way I look at it, is if you're going to commit to something, because obviously you look at 5 years being that journey going from the littlest run up to an Ironman for that typical sort of goal setting. And then it's either you get to that 5-year mark and you want to try something else, or other things get in the way, and then it doesn't mean that you'll leave the sport entirely. Your just racing career turns to just training. Yeah,
I think that's where mine is at the moment, knowing where to go next.
Exactly.
Is that half Ironman, and see where we go from there.
Yeah.
On to my favourite part of the podcast. It's 5 fast questions. So the numbers are between 1 and 20. You literally spit out a number, and the first thing that comes to your mind is what you answer with. All right, what's your first number?
7.
Okay, number 7. What's your coffee order?
Mocha.
Nice. Next number?
14.
Okay, 14. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be? First thing that comes to your mind?
Have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun. Just have fun in everything you do.
That's a good one. All right, next number.
19.
19 is, if the Olympics called you up for a sport, what are you playing? So if they say you're going to be in Paris in July.
I hate to say I have to go back to soccer. I have to go back to the initial state. I love soccer.
Yeah? Not even triathlon?
Nah, soccer.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Next one.
1.
Okay, number 1. What's your go-to song or artist to listen to?
I'm not one-on-one. Like, I just don't like one. I love everyone.
You like a playlist of everything?
And because I'm in a gym environment, so many people like different mixes. So it's just like, all right, we'll listen to this today.
What's your, like, if you went on there and picked a song or a playlist, what would it be?
I'm old school dance.
Okay, nice. Yeah, mine's pretty similar. And last one.
Number 15.
Okay, number 15 is your favourite place in the world.
Oh, I've been to Cairns that many times for Ironman, so Cairns would definitely be number 1. I would say, in terms of where I've been. Yeah, Cairns.
So good.
Yeah.
I still haven't been up there yet, but hopefully to race one day. Well, thank you for your time. That was
thank
great.
you for having me.
And when's the next events this year?
So we've got Silver Sands on Feb 11th, and then we've obviously got Victor on the long weekend of March, so 9th and 10th, And then obviously the postponed Murray Bridge, March 24th. So
how exciting.
Yes. And the wife is going away for a girls' weekend or girls' holiday to Hamilton Island in there somewhere. So solo parenting as well, which is an event.
Do you bring the kids out and make them work for you while you're there? Or
I don't have to bring them. They want to be part of it, which is great.
How good.
My 9-year-old wakes up. She woke up at 5 o'clock for the aquathon and she was up and running around with me. So, and that's the beauty. It's a family. It's not just me. My wife puts in a lot of effort and time and my children put in a lot of effort. And then I've got a good friendship and family group that support us as well. Yeah. So, very happy. And
so good.
The community backs me and they help me out as well. So, all the community clubbies and all of that just give up their time to help me set up, pack down. I love it.
So good. I'll tag all your things in the notes and everybody get out to a race somewhere soon.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the Wellness Sleep podcast with your host, Ella. And today my friend is Jason Delfos. Jason is the head of Pushing Limits Events, or you may know him as the race director of a lot of SA triathlons. So, should we dive in? What an inspirational guy, taking over triathlons in SA and really giving them his own spin. And really finding that his new changes of giving opportunities to people who never have raced before, which is really cool. If you're keen on doing a triathlon, go and check out his website. Links will be in the show notes. And you know what? Go and give it a go. They are so much fun. And honestly, once you've done one, you won't want to stop trying. If you've got any questions about racing, shoot me them and I'm more than happy to answer. So if you're enjoying this little podcast that I'm making, please share it to your social media or even just share it to a friend. Don't forget to like, subscribe and follow if you are on Spotify, YouTube or Apple Podcasts. But don't forget to have a wonderful rest of your day. Have the best week and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye!